A poor, homeless boy once walked nearly 470 kilometers with nothing but hope. He had no money, no connections, no idea that one day he would build one of the most iconic brands in history. History remembers the name. Almost no one remembers the boy. This is the story of Louis Vuitton.
Imagine leaving your home, not because you wanted adventure, but because staying hurt even more. Imagine being only 13 years old, owning almost nothing, knowing nobody, yet deciding to walk hundreds of kilometers toward a city you had never seen. Most children would have turned back. Most adults would have given up. But this boy didn't. Nearly 200 years later, his name would be printed on products worth thousands of dollars. People would stand in long lines, not for food, not for work, but simply to own something carrying his name. That boy was Louis Vuitton. But this isn't a story about luxury. It's a story about courage, perseverance, and one decision that changed history forever. Louis Vuitton was born on August 4th, 1821, in the small village of Anchailly, eastern France. His family was poor. His father was a farmer, and life revolved around hard work. Luxury wasn't something anyone talked about. Survival came first. Then tragedy struck. Louis lost his mother in 1831 when Louis was just 10 years old. Her death left a void that could never truly be filled. Eventually, his father remarried. Although history doesn't record every detail of their family life, it does tell us that home became difficult for young Louis. So difficult that at just 13 years old, he made a decision that would change his life forever. He left home. No money, no map, no promise that he would survive. Just hope and a destination. Paris, nearly 470 kilometers away. The journey wasn't completed in days. It took almost 2 years. Along the way, Louis accepted whatever work he could find. He worked on farms, helped, craftsmen, carried heavy loads. Sometimes, he earned only enough for a small meal and a place to sleep before continuing the next morning. Every sunrise brought another road, every sunset brought another challenge, yet he never turned back. Finally, in 1837, after nearly 2 years, Louis arrived in Paris. The city was unlike anything he had ever imagined. Crowded streets, horse-drawn, carriages, busy markets, workshops filled every neighborhood. But Paris had no sympathy for dreamers. It rewarded only those willing to work. Louis had no education, no influential family, no connections, only determination. Soon, opportunity appeared. He became an apprentice under Monsieur Maréchal, one of Paris's respected trunk makers and professional packers. Under Monsieur Maréchal, Louis learned that packing wasn't simply placing belongings into a box. Today, packing a suitcase takes only a few minutes. Back then, packing for wealthy travelers was an art. Delicate dresses, fine fabrics, jewelry, documents, everything had to survive long journeys by carriage, train, and ship. A single mistake could ruin expensive belongings. Louis devoted himself completely to learning. For years, he quietly mastered every detail, while others chased quick success. He chased perfection. He believed that if his work became extraordinary, success would eventually follow, and it did. Word spread throughout Paris. Customers began requesting Louis by name. His reputation grew because people trusted him. Eventually, that reputation reached the highest levels of French society. Louis was chosen to become the personal trunk maker and packer for Empress Eugénie, the wife of Emperor Napoleon III. That was the biggest changing point of his life for the poor village boy who had once walked to Paris with nothing. It was an extraordinary achievement, but his greatest contribution was still ahead. As railways expanded and steamships connected countries, travel changed dramatically. Yet one problem remained. Traditional trunks all had rounded tops. They worked well on horse-drawn carriages because rainwater could run off. But on trains and ships, rounded trunks couldn't be stacked efficiently. They rolled. They wasted space. Most people accepted the problem. Louis didn't. One evening, while working late in his workshop, he imagined something different. What if the trunk had a completely flat top? It sounded simple, but that simple idea changed everything. Flat-topped trunks could be stacked neatly. They saved space, protected luggage more effectively, and made travel easier for everyone. In 1854, at the age of 33, L.V. married to Clémence Émilie Pariozan in 1857. Their only child, Georges Vuitton, is born. Shortly afterward, the marriage, L.V. opens his first workshop at 4 Rue Neuve des Capucines in Paris. His flat-top trunks quickly became famous. Travelers loved them. His business flourished, but success brought a new challenge. Imitations. Competitors began copying his designs. Inferior products appeared. Throughout France, many people would have become discouraged. Louis chose a different path. Instead of complaining, he continued improving because he understood something important. People can copy your product. They can copy your design, but they can never copy your ability to innovate just when everything seemed perfect. History intervened. In 1870, the Franco-Prussian War broke out. Paris changed. Overnight, businesses closed, trade stopped, families fled. Louis had no choice but to shut down his workshop. When the war finally ended in January 1871, he returned to discover that everything had been destroyed. His tools gone, his materials gone. Years of work had disappeared. For the second time in his life, he stood with almost nothing. Many people would have accepted defeat. Louis didn't. Instead of rebuilding the old workshop, he built a better one. In Asnières-sur-Seine, just outside Paris, larger, more modern, better prepared for the future. It became the heart of his growing business. By now, his son, Georges Vuitton, had joined him, working side by side. Father and son continued improving every product they created. As the years passed, Louis grew older. The frightened 13-year-old boy who had once walked alone toward Paris had become one of France's most respected craftsmen. In 1892, Louis Vuitton passed away at the age of 70. His journey had ended, but his legacy had only begun. Georges took over the family business, determined to protect his father's reputation. He introduced new innovations. One of the most important came in 1896 to fight counterfeit products. Georges created a unique design featuring floral patterns and two simple letters, L.V. The famous Louis Vuitton monogram. It wasn't created to make the brand look luxurious. It was created to prove authenticity, to tell customers, this is the real Louis Vuitton. Over the decades, the company expanded far beyond travel trunks, handbags, leather goods, clothing, shoes, accessories. Its name became known around the world, but behind every famous product was the same philosophy that began with a 13-year-old boy: work with excellence, never stop learning, keep improving, and solve real problems for real. People often believe success begins with talent, or luck, or money. Louis Vuitton's life tells a different story. Success began with courage, the courage to leave home, the courage to learn, the courage to start again after losing everything, and the courage to keep moving forward. Even when the road seemed impossible. Think back to where this story began, a lonely boy, walking away from home before sunrise. He had no idea that one day his name would become one of the most recognized brands in history. He wasn't chasing fame. He wasn't chasing wealth. He was simply taking the next step. Maybe that's the lesson his life leaves. That's the distance between where you are today and where you dream of being. Isn't measured in kilometers. It's measured by your willingness to take the first step, and then, no matter how difficult the road becomes, to keep walking.